I'm back. It's a few minutes later. First, I'm going to cut the plaid to proper length, and I've just laid it out on the table. And this little notch in the corner of the table, which you may not be able to see, marks 1 cloth yard from the corner. So one, actually, it would help if I marked where I'm doing. 1, 2. Okay, it's about 5 inches short of 2 yards. That yellow X was the top of his shoulder. Now we have to bring it down off the shoulder because the plaid brooch doesn't sit at the very apex of the shoulder. It sits forward about 5 inches, which I just measured on myself. 5 inches because I've got about the same shoulders as he does. So yeah, let's take it to 5. Now the thing about chalk marks is you got wax chalk and you got clay chalk. Wax chalk, you just touch it with an iron, it vanishes. But sometimes it can just sort of fade by itself, and I can't explain that, and I'm not really sure why. So if I'm leaving a chalk mark anytime at all, I'll mark it with a backstitch of thread, just to preserve the mark. Clay chalk, well, it's dust, right? You just have to hit it a few times and it disappears. So, okay, so there's the apex of the shoulder, measured down 5 inches. That'll be the bottom of the plaid. Now, how much fringe to give him? Let's go big. So from there, I'm taking it down to that red line. And again, this is just entirely by eye. That's about 3.5 inch fringe. I think that'll be fine. Now, in times past, these would be purled into braids. They were twisted up in a really ornate, lovely way. And somebody very kindly sent me a patent tool to do those fringes, but I could never figure the darn thing out. So I'm still just doing the simple fringe. So I did say it was there, didn't I? From there to there, that's right. So I'm just going to okay, good. Now I'm going to put the plaid aside for the time being. I'll return to this a bit later because this is relatively little work. I'm also going to roll up the rest of this piece of cloth. Let me just get a cardboard, what would I call this, a spindle? I don't know. Yeah, again, we ordered a bit of extra cloth, so we've got enough extra which I can offer him if he wishes to have a waistcoat made or something like that. If he doesn't, it'll just go on the shelf against the day of some future project. Okay, good. That's covered. It goes away. Plaid is to the proper length. I'm just going to hang that up for a minute. I'll hang it across the tailor's dummy. Now, next thing, it's time to shape that front apron. Now, as you can see, I put in my 2 pins where the loops for the plaid will be sewn on. Now, I am going to mark them with just a twist of thread. This is very hard to see because it's gray thread, but it was, oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I can't do that. Okay, let's have some of my white thread with the correct needle. It's gone 5. Okay. I think I'll put in a little overtime and at least get this top band. Come on, you heaven's sake. This top band off for This is why you should always prepare for instruction, kids. Thread your needle beforehand. Okay, that was there, one. Good. And I pull out the pin because it's kind of hard to see. There's one. And the other one, I put it here. Good. So even if because of course when I press this kilt, all of the chalk marks are just going to vanish, right? So in fact, while I'm at it, that reminds me, there is the end. That's where the end of the strap will go. Now I'm just going to measure down 2.5 inches. So there. So I'm just going to good. And that is sort of a T that I've made there to make it obvious enough that it's not the basting, that's not part of the basting that's shaping that apron. And as you can see, what you can't see is I just stuck myself with a needle. That's funny. As you can see, there's the butt end. Now remember what I was saying earlier about that supplier that had two weights of leather, and one was impossibly heavy and the other was too light. Well, the impossibly heavy one, at least it worked, but this is one of the lighter ones which I sort of replaced as a sort of a warranty repair, because you can see it's stretched and narrowed and pulled there in the middle. It's very disappointing. Okay, so there's the end of the buckle. Even if he attaches it, because it's going to shape itself, it's not going to pinch. See that overlap? It's not going to pinch his shirt, and it's not going to pinch his skin. At least that's the theory. Seems to work anyway. Okay, so I'm also going to take off, remember that temporary buckle. I don't know where my seam ripper is, so I'm using my little scissors, my thread scissors. Okay, let's go. Good. Get you out the way. Put you back together. Let's put you over there for now. Okay, good. So here we have my chalk marks that showed his waist and hip measurement. And those are not where I expected them to be. I expected it to be on the other side of that line, so I wonder if he's dropped a bit of weight. That's one tends to do over the summer. Huh, yeah, he's dropped about 1 inch off the waist. But I am going to I'm going to sew it to the original line, because we do have about 1 inch or so of overlap. Okay. So we can take out these bastes now. I'm leaving these ones in. Let's go. Hang that thread out of the way. Okay, so where was I? Oh, that's to the line, yeah. Okay. I'm going to remark it. There's my line. So you see this basting mat. This is, or this, I beg your pardon, quilting mat. I don't know if you can see it, but it's marked off in 2-inch squares. So yeah, it has a grid printed upon it. So what I'm doing is there's the right-hand edge of my kilt. It's closer than on this side because remember I have an inch or so of fringe on the outside. Properly, perhaps I should take it to the other side of that line, but even though when you're wearing the kilt, it's curved and you can't see both sides at once, laying down the fact that there was a red line there and not a red line there on the finished kilt would really, really bug me if I was looking at it. So I'm moving at that 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, exactly a 1/4 inch. Okay, so that line I'm going to dress off. If you can't see it, but there's a line right there. It's dressed off with that mark. Okay, now it's a bit off there, so I'm just going to transfer that mark. There's that line transferred to there. Now, if I sewed the canvas to that line, I would have to extend the fringe at least an inch past that, which is a bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this back. I'm going to move this back a full 1.25 inches. And that is where my canvas will go to. So there's, and we're going to keep this in place without moving the cloth relative to the quilting mat. So my line is there. That is the right-hand edge of the apron, but I'm backing the canvas up because I have to get the lining in. There's going to be a fringe. So I'm moving it to give it a crease. Crease is dead on the chalk, right on. It's almost as though I've done this before. And then let's knock off the corner and cut back. It's about, what is that, 3/4 of an inch? Bang on 3/4 of an inch. Wow, okay. Right, so checking it again, there's the edge of the kilt, there's the edge of the canvas, backing it up, and now I bring my fringe across. So my fringe, there's the edge of the kilt, but the fringe can go past that a bit, can't it? Maybe I took that back a bit too far. Let's see. If that's, what you can't see is this line here. Maybe that line there. Let's make it that line there. Is going to be where the sewn portion of the apron comes to. Let's double check. Okay, that line is still correct relative to the rest of the garment. I split the difference there. I put this down so that it's like that. I grab a bunch of pins. Okay, so sorry, I'm sitting and thinking about this a bit because that edge of the kilt, this represents the seam between the apron and the pleat. So yeah, okay. Now I'm pulled it, it isn't absolutely square. I've pulled it out a little bit because remember we're going to have the A line. I'm going to pin that as well. And now I bring the shears out the way. Now I bring my cloth over. See, right? There's my red line at, good. Now, I'm just going to temporarily pin that because I want to see how deep, okay. I want to see how deep the apron, well, it's not an apron pleat, but the fold on this side. And again, unlike others in the trade, okay, let's open it up and see what we got. I keep a fairly deep S fold, let's call it that, because it provides a little extra weight on the front apron so it doesn't blow up. I mean, this is heavy cloth. It's not likely to flip up from the wind, moderate wind anyway. And it's also a reserve in case the person gets bigger over time. And also, if this is the sort of person who likes kilt pins, which I don't, instead of one layer of cloth, there's 1, 2, 3 layers of cloth, and even a little bit of the fringe in there. So there's potentially 5 layers of cloth to support the weight of the kilt pin. So kilt pins damage the cloth, but this is at least, although if he wears a kilt pin, even though he's put holes in the cloth, at least it's not weighing down the cloth. So yeah, so I folded that over to see how deep that came to. I made the chalk mark like so. So that's the fold. So I'm going to move back a bit. What's that? 1/2 inch. Now I'm feeling it to see. That's the top of that's the bottom, that's the edge of the canvas. There's the cutback I did, and I can feel it right there. And there it is. There. So I'm going to sew this down with a with a basting stitch, a herringbone stitch. Let's use red thread, just because I don't know what the hell happened there. You have all of these bobbins of thread, and you grab one of them and the other one decides it's going to come along too. Okay, I'm going to do red thread because it's out of sight in the finished garment. I had a piece of chalk here. Well, I'm just going to grab one of my recycled bits of chalk, and I'll just be careful so I don't break the thread. These ones, again, they go into the can there. When I have enough of them, I melt them down and cast them into new blocks. Okay. Heat the wax into the thread, right on. Grab myself a needle. Turns out that I dropped a needle on the carpet the other day. I found that out when I was walking barefoot an hour ago, so at least the customer didn't find it. Oh, good Lord, that's a tiny eye in that needle. Okay, time to use the old man zoom. I'm not proud. There we go. Now this might not be quite visible in the video, but I know I had some bright yellow thread, but I used it all up and I haven't replaced it yet. So starting up in that corner, there's the edge of the cloth. Now, as I've explained, I fold back the edge of the canvas rather than have it end where it does there, because it adds a bit of extra body to the end of the apron, and it makes it I think it makes a firmer foundation for the strap that's going to be sewn there. Okay, because I'm right on the fold. I'm right on the edge of that canvas. Good. Making sure my stitches aren't so very tight that they're puckering. And as is to be expected these days, thread isn't quite long enough for the job, so I'll have to splice in a new piece. That's all right. Scissors, thread. I'm starting to wonder what I did with that other piece of wax. It's probably laying on the floor here somewhere. I'll find it when I clean up. Yeah. Okay. Let's just go to the old man zoom at once. Finding that edge of the thread. 1, 2, good to go. And I do different color thread on inside work like this. Because I can, but also it's a hell of a lot easier to see a contrasting color. It's contrasting to the work you're working on, because black thread on black cloth, not good for the eyes. I think I mentioned elsewhere, there's often I'm feeling where I'm sewing rather than actually seeing. Okay, there we are. Sew it back 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Come on, get in there. Heard that little click as the knot buried itself in the cloth. Put the needle away. Now, let's double check. What did he ask for? He wants black buckles and straps. So, here's our black straps. You see, I generally do a shorter and a longer one. The shorter one will be on the outside apron, and the slightly longer one will be on the inside apron. Now, I'm going to stop at this point, or at least I'm going to stop very soon, because I realized that I've just mislaid my leather punch, and that's moderately embarrassing. So what I'm going to do, I'll just carry on this step and then I'll stop, which is, there's the edge of the canvas right there. So I'm going to measure down 2.5 inches, which is to the center of the strap line, and mark it like so in the center line. And then I'm going to use my template leather because it's very heavy. And you see that hole in the middle, or alternately I'd be using the holes that are already punched for the buckle. So I dress it off so it's centered on the yellow line. I mark it heavily. So there's where that strap's going to go. Yeah. I'm going to wander away and find my leather punch, because customers elected these copies that I had made of the old double tongue buckles that were used from certainly by 1870 up till the present time. So I'm gonna have to punch the strap for the buckle, and I'll do that after I find the wretched hole punch, and then I'll sew this in place. And having sewn this in place, I will then pin and sew that down. But that is going to be the subject of an entirely different video, which might well wait till tomorrow morning. I'm not sure, but I'll check in with you. Talk to you in a bit.